da revolução na legislação, a revolução do momento, ou melhor, talvez a revolução do futuro, o hidrogénio. Tem a palavra Marcos Nogueira. Está a ouvir-me?
Sim, bom dia.
Bom dia, a emissão é sua.
I hope all the speakers for the hydrogen panel are waiting, and they are, I hope you can listen to me. So I'm Marcos Nogueira. I'm very pleased of moderating this panel. I don't apologize about the delay because that's not our responsibility, but that's, we are really late. We are going to have today the top of the European ecosystem for hydrogen. So we are extremely glad and thankful to all the participants to have the opportunity to share this moment with you. It's going to be a very short intervention on this event named Air Summit, just to witness the capabilities in place and the potential in Europe for hydrogen, which very much includes airports, green airports, and aviation. So I have to welcome the speakers. First, I will just make a little joke saying that I had the privilege between 2002 and 2005 to be related and part of the European Commission projects for Hydrogen Society in university. And people sometimes were making comments like, oh yeah, you are working on Hydrogen Society for 2050. It's not going to happen. It's like something lunatic. And now, finally, it happened much sooner than 2050. So we are working on the present for the effective actual projects using hydrogen, and that's amazing the acceleration this process had. It was very much due to the European industry, here represented by Hydrogen Europe, by its director, so Nicolas, Brahy. And that's very much due to FCHGU, here represented by its executive director, Bart Biebuyck. Thank you. And that's also very much due to an ecosystem of knowledge and capabilities, here represented by one of the best examples, Roland Berger, so Nikhil. Thank you for coming. That's due to this very innovative and really in the frontline industries, here represented by Caetano bus, which is a front runner in the applications, the actual applications nowadays, not in 2050 as we were studying 20 years ago, but nowadays in concrete applications. So thank you for your presence and representing the European industry in hydrogen. So Patrícia Vasconcelos, the CEO of Hydrogen Bus, and that's also due to the political leadership and the effective capabilities at the regional level, here represented by both Ricardo Beirão, representing the Portuguese region of hydrogen, the Portuguese Hydrogen Valley, so member of CFCHGU as Portuguese Hydrogen Region, and also the Hydrogen Valley cooperating with the cluster, ITAGUS cluster of partners, and welcoming the speakers to the region of Alentejo, Mr. José Calixto, President of Alentejo Regional Development Agency, so the Innovation Agency for Alentejo. So the introduction is done. We have to have these very short presentations today because this is just to have the opportunity to say hello to hydrogen on this Air Summit, but it's anyway an opportunity to use. So I would give the floor now to Mr. José Calixto to a very, very short introductory address. Please, Mr. Calixto.
Muito bem, Marcos. Muito obrigado. Naturalmente um painel de bastante relevo no contexto do tema que estamos a tratar. Um painel que tenho a honra, naturalmente, de saudar enquanto organizador, enquanto Agência de Desenvolvimento Regional do Alentejo e organizador deste painel sobre a utilização do hidrogênio no setor aeronáutico, numa edição, enfim, um pouco atípica e adaptativa às circunstâncias desta Air Summit em Ponte Sor, naturalmente uma cimeira que pretende manter a aspiração de continuar a ser uma das maiores, se não a maior cimeira ibérica do setor aeronáutico e aeroespacial e, naturalmente, um cumprimento à Câmara Municipal de Pontessor, ao seu Presidente Hilário, por esta visão que teve para este território, que naturalmente tem impacto positivo e mais-valia neste território de Pontessor, mas também em toda a região Alentejo, como sabemos, representa cerca de 1/3 de Portugal. E, portanto, ancorar este setor e este cluster aeronáutico do Alentejo em exemplos como Pontessor é naturalmente muito importante e esperançoso para o futuro e para a sustentabilidade da região. Naturalmente, uma saudação a todos os participantes que, de alguma forma, juntam o que as instituições e personalidades mais importantes, quer em termos institucionais da Comissão Europeia, quer da própria indústria, e, portanto, uma saudação genérica para todos, uma vez que o Marcos já a fez detalhadamente, e, naturalmente, também uma saudação para Marcos Nogueira, nosso responsável pela representação permanente do Alentejo em Bruxelas e que, de facto, tem estado a marcar uma agenda muito importante para a região, com base numa representação permanente, que é uma das únicas, infelizmente, de Portugal em Bruxelas e que nos orgulha muito a Agência de Desenvolvimento Regional. Naturalmente, este painel marca aqui uma visão de uma Hydrogen Society na qual o Alentejo quer marcar posição. E é um pouco sobre o enquadramento macroeconómico e macropolítico em que nos situamos, que queria também deixar clara o posicionamento político da Agência de Desenvolvimento Regional, naturalmente no contexto da estratégia europeia, European Green Deal, e também na sequência de passos concretos que o governo português vem dando nesta matéria, nomeadamente no início deste ano, com o anúncio de um grande investimento em Sines, um investimento de cerca de 3,5 mil milhões de euros para colocar a temática da adoção do hidrogênio como fonte de energia em Portugal e o seu contributo, naturalmente, para a descarbonização. É um passo significativo que a Agência de Desenvolvimento Regional do Alentejo saberá, com certeza, interpretar. Neste contexto, a Adral respondeu a este desafio com uma agenda clara, o Alentejo Regional Green Deal, que no passado dia 19 de outubro teve uma sessão no âmbito da Semana das Regiões em Bruxelas, numa tentativa já de marcar claramente essa agenda também e de a apresentar em termos europeus no contexto da Semana das Regiões e, portanto, temos metas nessa agenda para 2050 que também exigem de todos nós um esforço de união, de coordenação de todos os stakeholders da região no sentido de esse esforço ser bem sucedido. A Adral também é neste momento uma das únicas entidades coordenadoras territorial do Pacto dos Autarcas e relativamente ao Alentejo, naturalmente temos aspectos e objetivos e metas fundamentais na área da preservação da biodiversidade, na área da sustentabilidade energética e das atividades económicas estruturantes na economia regional e nas áreas da capacitação e captação de investimento verde e de inovação em tecnologia. Portanto, este é um caminho também que o poder local, reunido com todas as forças vivas e relevantes da região, irá com certeza marcar nos próximos tempos. É, portanto, aqui a declaração política da região claramente adaptada a esta tentativa que todos devemos fazer de inverter o rumo dos acontecimentos, porque a questão da sustentabilidade do planeta é muito importante e é também, penso eu, um dos fatores-chave de sucesso do Alentejo, porque tudo o que nos trouxe até aqui foi já um pouco em respeito pela natureza, pela biodiversidade, por questões de qualidade e de reservas estratégicas de água para a região e, portanto, sentimos-nos muito bem nesta estratégia europeia de sustentabilidade e desenvolvimento verde e transição verde de muitos setores que naturalmente precisam dessa estratégia têm necessidade dessa estratégia e aqui, nesta cimeira, está em causa o setor aeronáutico, que onde se calhar os desafios ainda são maiores. Portanto, contem com o Alentejo, naturalmente, e contem com a sua Agência de Desenvolvimento Regional. Muito obrigado.
Thank you, Mr. Calixto. Now we have the privilege of listening to someone who is a pioneer. And Europe needs pioneers, and Médio Tejo was pioneer in a lot of things. That's very much a personal privilege to have been working with the Médio Tejo agency since 2009. That agency is led by Ricardo Beirão. As I said, it was one of the first European regions of hydrogen. That's a hydrogen valley, and indeed is doing an amazing work in order to make this innovation to happen from the scratch at a regional level. So, Ricardo, please help us with a short statement. The floor is yours. The virtual floor is yours.
Muito bom dia a todos os meus colegas de painel, bom dia a todos quantos nos ouvem e nos veem por todo o mundo neste Air Summit. Gostava de, em primeiro lugar, agradecer à organização o convite da Médio Tejo para a Médio Tejo 21 estar presente neste evento de importância global e especificamente para a nossa região, não para a região do Médio Tejo, onde nós estamos, mas como região vizinha, logicamente que também tem importância para nós. Relativamente ao hidrogênio e pegando naquilo que o engenheiro Marcos Nogueira disse, e muito bem, a região é a única região do país considerada região do hidrogênio, um contrato assinado com a FCHJU. A Médio Tejo 21, como agência regional de energia e ambiente para esta região, não poderia estar fora desta temática. Cedo se posicionou na discussão do que era o hidrogênio, já na altura da apresentação das linhas orientadoras do Pacto de Autarcas, onde nós tivemos papel decisivo para os municípios da nossa região. O hidrogênio foi logo posto como uma das linhas-chaves desse plano, mas mais efetivamente a partir de 2017 e depois quando soubemos que a região era a região portuguesa do hidrogênio, não poderíamos ficar sem contribuir, passando a integrar um grupo de trabalho para o hidrogênio ao nível da nossa comunidade intermunicipal. Estamos representados lá nesse grupo de trabalho, onde está também a Caetano Buzz, onde está a Tejo Energia, onde está a Tagus Gás, a Irradiar e também os parceiros científicos do conhecimento da nossa região, nomeadamente o Politécnico de Porto Alegre e o Politécnico de Tomar. Em 2018, tendo em conta a orientação que tínhamos na nossa estratégia para o hidrogênio, organizámos um evento sobre o hidrogênio em 2018, como estava a dizer, onde o objetivo foi começar a abrir a porta a falar sobre o hidrogênio, as suas aplicações, a visão do futuro e abordar alguns projetos pilotos e embrionários que se perspectivavam que poderiam ser implementados. Por esta altura, tendo a percepção da emergência da temática e a importância que se adivinhava que o mesmo iria ter, foi criado um grupo de trabalho envolvendo especialistas e entidades relevantes com o objetivo de elaborar um plano estratégico para o Médio Tejo com propostas para 2020-2030, onde o fulcro será o hidrogênio na nossa linha orientadora. Em 2019, o ano passado, realizámos outro evento, este já de abrangência internacional, com mais de 120 participantes repartidos por 9 países, onde muitos dos meus colegas de painel que hoje estão aqui presentes, estiveram também presentes nesse evento, onde o tema voltou a ser o hidrogênio, mas desta feita já com a sua aplicabilidade como fonte de energia, na mobilidade, como em outras vertentes, em projetos já executados também a nível europeu. Desse evento resultou aquilo que nós chamamos a Declaração do Entroncamento, na qual um grupo de parceiros europeus se reuniu de forma a cooperar e contribuir no desenvolvimento de iniciativas e projetos de hidrogênio verde a implementar na nossa região. Também nesse ano, também em 2019, já fruto do trabalho desse grupo de trabalho, passo o pleonasmo, a comunidade intermunicipal, para a comunidade intermunicipal foi submetido um projeto ao programa Horizonte 2020, o projeto Aitagos Valley. Este projeto visa construir uma cadeia de valor regional do hidrogênio, promover o uso integrado de tecnologias de fuel cells em diferentes setores e aplicações. Pretende-se que 100% do hidrogênio utilizado no projeto seja produzido a partir de fontes renováveis, via eletrólise e uma redução de pelo menos 50% das emissões de gases de efeito de estufa. Este projeto, embora não tenha obtido um financiamento, foi reconhecido como uma candidatura de elevada qualidade, estando no presente a integrar um PDA conjuntamente com 11 regiões da Europa. Neste momento, a região conta com o apoio de uma consultora no desenvolvimento de um projeto para a cadeia de valor do hidrogênio, desde a produção, passando pela distribuição e abastecimento, até ao consumo final, isto para diferentes setores, embora o setor dos transportes tenha uma atenção especial. E aqui faço este reforço, já que estamos num evento sobre aviação, há uma linha que nós temos e um objetivo que nós temos muito bem traçados. Nós queremos trazer para a região este projeto e esta cadeia de valor do hidrogênio. Logicamente que a nossa primeira linha de pensamento foi na questão da mobilidade, porque é uma questão premente da nossa região, que temos algumas dificuldades em pôr as nossas cidades, as nossas aldeias, as nossas vilas a comunicar umas com outras e levar-lhes os serviços a eles mesmos e tornar os serviços mais acessíveis. Essa foi a nossa preocupação. Contudo, aquilo que nós queremos é trazer mesmo essa cadeia de valor para a região, porque depois a utilização do hidrogênio, depois dele cá estar, logicamente que a sua aplicação será mais variada e consumidores não nos faltarão. Como estava a dizer, o hidrogênio será armazenado no local de produção, sendo transportado depois para outras infraestruturas de armazenamento e reabastecimento ou injetado na rede de gás natural, porque temos uma rede aqui bem perto de nós. Este projeto, logicamente, tendo em conta os parceiros que temos, também contempla a componente da inovação e do conhecimento, em concreto nas atividades de investigação e desenvolvimento tecnológico, na demonstração nas áreas das fuel cells, e pretendemos acrescentar um valor em termos de investigação, desenvolvimento e inovação, contribuindo para a melhoria do desempenho da redução de custos. Eu termino já a dizer que estas e outras iniciativas, também o Plano Nacional para o Hidrogênio, o IPCEI, o Fundo da Transição Justa, tudo com base no hidrogênio, é tudo uma preocupação da Médio Tejo 21, e o hidrogênio está na nossa linha de raciocínio e é a nossa principal preocupação nesta altura, porque tudo faremos para acelerar a introdução do mercado das tecnologias do hidrogênio, uma vez que vemos esta fonte de energia como um dos pilares do futuro no sistema europeu dessa energia.
Thank you, Ricardo. Sorry, because we have to keep everything very short. Okay, Ricardo and Médio Tejo is the example that the best revolutions are the ones quieter.
Obrigado, eu.
So now we have Roland Berger. So that's Roland Berger here is representing the expertise available in Europe. Roland Berger is perhaps a prominent consultant company assisting FCHGU and a number of other entities on this topic. Nikhil, can you please make a short introduction of Roland Berger? And we have very short time, so I have to apologize for that. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Muito obrigado. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak at such an important event. I'm afraid the rest of this presentation will be in English, as my Portuguese is not good enough to justify speaking in that language.
No problem.
So Roland Berger is a strategy consulting firm. We have deep expertise and experience in aerospace and aviation, but also in helping our clients undergo the energy transition. Indeed, sustainability is one of our global themes. And we've had a lot of experience helping clients from the automotive industry to energy generation to oil and gas to decarbonize and undergo the energy transition. And now it is very much moving to the aerospace and aviation sectors. I'm Nikhil Sachdeva. I'm an aerospace and aviation industry specialist and a project manager at Roland Berger. So we at RB have been investigating the next generation of sustainable aviation for many years. It has been fantastic to see the way in which the industry has galvanized around the incredibly important challenge of decarbonizing our sector. even through the existential crisis that COVID-19 has posed to us. Let me start with our fundamental view on hydrogen. We think that hydrogen has a hugely important role to play in helping to decarbonize aviation. However, we also think that it is not a panacea and that it will form an important part of a wider set of solutions that will be required to decarbonize aviation. So what's the size of the challenge? The fact remains that unlike other industries such as automotive and energy generation, aerospace does not have any off-the-shelf solution. Following COVID-19, we think that emissions will reach about 3 billion tons of CO2 by 2050. While this is less than the pre-COVID forecast, this is still a significant increase. And to compound the matter further, CO2 is not the only relevant warming effect. We also have NOx, water vapor, particulate matter, contrails to consider. And unfortunately, there is no silver bullet solution that is currently in discussion that will also deal both with CO2 and non-CO2 effects. The solutions that are being considered broadly fall into three categories. There's electric propulsion, there's hydrogen propulsion, and there's propulsion using sustainable aviation fuels. Battery electric can completely decarbonize, but it's probably only going to be relevant for small aircraft flying short distances. On the other side, sustainable aviation fuels might be great for the largest aircraft flying the longest distances, but they will still produce NOx and contrails in significant quantities, and they will not reduce gross emissions. You will still have CO2 coming out of your engine, even though on a net basis it is reduced. Hydrogen has a role to play in the middle of the market, which is great because that is where the bulk of flights are, that is where the bulk of the emissions are in the industry. Here, we also think the jury is ultimately still out. Whether hydrogen will win this market or whether some form of hybrid electric solution, maybe burning sustainable aviation fuels, will win, that question is still unsolved. There are multiple challenges hydrogen faces. There's three key ones very quickly. There's volumetric density, which is very low. It will still require a massive redesign of the aircraft if we are to see it used for larger flights. Second is the cost-efficient production of hydrogen. We cannot have a situation in which we are burning fossil fuels to make hydrogen because the ultimate aim here is to be sustainable. And so we cannot emit greenhouse gases like carbon or others in production. And the manufacturing pathways for this exist, but have to be scaled up and the cost has to come down. Third is the non-CO2 challenge, which I've already slightly touched on. Hydrogen propulsion is very clearly not a true zero solution, but it is a zero carbon solution. You still have water emissions, you still have contrails that may still be produced. And manufacturers in aerospace and airlines have to take measures to ensure that when they have hydrogen aircraft, they remove or minimize these effects. One potential solution, which is also available for aircraft today, is what's known as trajectory optimization, wherein the aircraft will fly lower and slower to minimize the likelihood of contrail formation. To conclude, if these challenges are resolved, we really think hydrogen can revolutionize aerospace and aviation. We think it has a really bright future, and it will form an important part of the ecosystem of supporting solutions, including electric and sustainable aviation fuels. That's where I'll stop in the interest of time. Obrigado.
Thank you, Nikhil. And indeed, that was really good to have this panorama about hydrogen in aviation you could provide. And now we would move to the other side of the equation, so the capability of organizing a well-structured, well-financed, well-supported, effective strategy at European level and to implement it. That's the role of the public-private partnership, FCHTU. This is going to evolve after the 2021. That's good to hear something about that. We have today the great privilege of having with us Bart Biebuyck, the executive director. So please, the virtual floor is yours.
Obrigado, Marcos. Bom dia a todos. And here I stop with my Portuguese. So I will continue in English. And I'm sorry if I might repeat some of the things that maybe the previous speakers have said, because I could not follow everything, of course, in Portuguese. Well, first of all, I would like to explain a little bit who is the FCSJU, because we are a public-private partnership, and I'm sure not everybody knows about that. And especially in the aviation, we are pretty new there, although we had some projects, but we are still very new in the sector itself. So the Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking is a public-private partnership. We have three partners, and we have on the one hand the industry, which is then later will be explained by Nicolas Brahy as the industry representative. On the other hand, we have also research organizations, around 80 research organizations in Hydrogen Europe research, and then we have the European Commission, which is represented by the research, by the transport and energy. And they are, of course, a very important stakeholder for us because they are giving us the financial means. Otherwise, we would not be able to support all these projects. At the moment, we have supported now 263 projects in Europe, and combined private money and public money, and I have to say it's page euro for a euro. So we have spent since 2008 €2 billion in this sector. And of course, as you know, this is not done just for fun. It's clear reasons for that. I mean, we have done a study last year which called the Hydrogen Roadmap for Europe. We can create 5.4 million jobs in that one and create an annual revenue of 820 billion euro by 2050. So these are gigantic numbers, very high and very important for Europe. And that's why on the 8th of July this year, the European Hydrogen Strategy was made. And you know that there are three phases there. Phase 1, 6 gigawatt on electrolyzers by 2024, 40 gigawatt by 2030, and then it should be mature. There will be a Clean Hydrogen Alliance, but I'm sure that Nicolas will talk about that later on. Still, there is a very important role to play there for research. And I will explain you why. Today, we have spent, and then I'm looking really in the aviation sector, we have done 5 projects, 18 million euro funding we gave. It's peanuts, it's nothing. It's really something just, okay, we do something to be there, but what we will need to be able to put a plane by 2028 in the air, propelled by hydrogen, we will talk about billions of euros of R&D investment that will be required. But just to take one step back, we have started really back in 2010 already with some aviations, and at that time it was really mainly unmanned aerial vehicles that we supported with some fuel cell stacks therein, but that's it. It was very small things. But then we moved to auxiliary power units for non-essential applications. You can say, for example, for the kitchenettes in the planes or something like that. And we had a project which called Hycaris, and that was the world's first ever fuel cell system that we demonstrated in a pressurized aircraft cabin. And what is even more, that project was developed actually the whole fuel cell and the tank according to the standard for the environmental testing avionics hardware. So that was very important that we followed the aviation standard of design. And after that, we moved to more safety systems and propulsion finally. And in the safety systems, for example, the project FlySafe, there we will replace a ram air turbine from a commercial aircraft by a fuel cell. And now the latest project is the project Heaven, where we basically make a zero-emission fuel cell-based propulsion. It's still small, it's a 90 kilowatt fuel cell, and a cryogenic hydrogen storage, but it's just to show that this, even for the small plane, that we can propel aviation with hydrogen. This year, actually end of last year, we said, well, all these small things, it's nice, but our fuel cells and the hydrogen has evolved so fast in terms of capacity and durability that we said, we believe there's a bigger potential in aviation. So we started a study that we did together with Clean Sky. Clean Sky is actually another joint undertaking, which is working only on aviation. And we did a study together to see really the potential. We got all the big players. We got Airbus, Safran, also Boeing was there. So all the big players on the market joined this study and concluded together. And there was a study done by McKinsey. You can also download it from our website. What we did was actually divide all the aviation sector in 5 types of planes, from commuters up to long range. And the study found really that indeed, as already mentioned by Nikhil, that the short range to medium range, which means up to from 1,000 to 3,000, 4,000 kilometer range, and these are mainly the hubs, like from Europe, Paris to, I don't know, to Hamburg, or Paris to Rome. These kind of flights can easily be done by hydrogen, and we don't need any other type of fuel. What was more is that actually with hydrogen we can indeed have a zero CO2 flights. And I will skip here a few things because the study I will not repeat, because a lot of things have already been mentioned by Nikhil, but still a lot of research will be necessary. The liquid hydrogen tanks, we will put them behind in the plane. We will have to extend the fuselage, for example, for this middle range with 5 meters. There we can put 2 tanks of liquid hydrogen and then bring this liquid hydrogen to the wings, where we can have the burners, or basically the turbines burning the hydrogen, or with a fuel cell, or a hybrid version means fuel cells and burners or turbines together. But also the aircraft system itself will have to change a lot. Think about safety, for example, but also the infrastructure. Often forget is the infrastructure in the airports. We will have to make sure that there is a liquid hydrogen there available, and that if we maybe later on even will have to be produced locally there, but also how to refuel. The refueling will be also a bit of a challenge. So plenty of challenges still there, and that is what we will work together with the other joint undertaking, the clean aviation. But the conclusion was hydrogen is definitely a compelling option to power aircraft. It can be done, and it will be done, because we will make together a demonstrator by 2028. And the economics is very interesting. With less than 18 euro per passenger, we can move to a hydrogen-powered short-range flight. 18 euro per passenger. I think if you ask a lot of people if they would agree to take the next holidays, a plane propelled by hydrogen, they only have to pay 18 euro extra. I think a lot of people would do that. And at the end, zero CO2 emissions, but we can reduce the climate impact. And this is what Nikhil was talking with 70% reduction. We can do that. So, and for the contrails, yes, we can do even more. One is the solution that he did, but there is also a solution that you can bring the temperatures of the water equally to the outside temperature and then release it. And then you would create less contrails even. So there's various possibilities that need to be researched. I want to end just with one thing, is that this study already bear fruit. I mean, Airbus announced after that they will produce 3 airplanes on hydrogen. Public communication, very important to set the tone. And after that, recently, I don't know if you heard it this week, that Airbus and Elring-Klinger, they started now a new joint venture to produce the fuel cells for the airplanes. And I think this is a gigantic achievement, that we really see that the aviation sector has made up their mind, and they will go for that. For the long distance flights, yes, it will be first sustainable aviation fuels, no doubt, because for hydrogen we need to extend the fuselage too much, and that's why we wait for the larger ones, so up to 10,000 kilometer range, that we need to have new kind of types of airports, like wing-in-body types of airplanes, and that will only come after 2050. But if we get there, then basically we can completely decarbonize the whole aviation sector with hydrogen. So I stop here for sake of time. Thank you very much. We don't hear you, Marcos. You should unmute.
Apologize. Thank you, Bart. And sometimes people say that Europe is slow doing things, and FCHQ is exactly the example of the opposite. You get things done, and that's good. So let's move on, because we are a little pressured by time, and that's a privilege of having today with us Nicolas Brahy. Nicolas simply represents the European industry of hydrogen, so which is really great and very important to have a word from you today. So the virtual floor is yours, please. Nicolas, your micro. Sorry, your micro.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. So as Nikhil and Bart have already said a few things, I don't even need to be the industrial lobbyist. They do the job better than me. And I'm sure that Ricardo said also very nice things, even if I could not understand everything. So a few words on who we are, what we do, how is it relevant for aviation, and fourth, how is it relevant for Portugal? Who we are, so Hydrogen Europe is the association representing the industry interested by hydrogen. So we have now close to 200 industrial members and 25 national associations representing technology providers, but also end users in the energy sector, in the transport sector with all applications from cars to planes, ships, trains and trucks, but also hydrogen into industry. And we have 25 national associations now. We have some Portuguese members, but not enough. So Galp is our member, Caetano is one of our members. We have another company doing hydrogen from biomass in Portugal, but it's not enough. And we don't have yet a strong Portuguese association that would be member of us. So I really hope that we will increase our contact with the Portuguese hydrogen ecosystem. So what do? We are active, if I simplify a bit, in 3 fields. Policy, so we represent our industry and we try to ensure that hydrogen is properly understood as a contributor to decarbonization of Europe and supported in the EU policies. We are very active in research innovation. So Bart presented the FCAGU, and as he said, it's a partnership between the European Commission, our sister organization, Hydrogen Europe Research, and us. And there the division of task is that we as industry and research, we have the responsibility to propose research and innovation funding priorities, and then Bart take over and start to organize call for proposals and manage the projects and check that we are on track with the plans. So it's a very close cooperation. And third, we do something what you can call business development, industrial policy, or huge project development. I think Ricardo referred to the Clean Hydrogen Alliance and the IPCEIs, the important project of common European interest. So the idea here is that we cannot simply wait for regulations that will create a business case for hydrogen, because they will still take a few years before they are adopted and implemented. We need to develop already very large projects and try to find appropriate funding to support this. So how is this relevant for aviation? I think both Nikhil and Bart have discussed about the contribution of hydrogen to different types of airplane. I would like to complement that with also a kind of other division of task in the timeline and between policy and research. When it comes to aviation, if we look at it from a policy side, we can already today start pushing for hydrogen, not as a pure hydrogen, but as an ingredient for e-kerosenes. So in the sustainable aviation fuel, you have kerosenes made from hydrogen, and for that, you don't need to wait for 10 years of research. You can already ask that in policies. And just to give an example, the German government is considering the idea of a mandate of 3% of hydrogen-made kerosene for aviation. So, and this is a debate that needs to go all over Europe. That's the policy aspect today. Today, we can already do that. And then there is the pure hydrogen aspect, which is indeed for certain categories of aircraft. But that's a research innovation challenge, and that's where we need to put resource to be sure that we can come for a solution in a short timeline. And there, as Bart mentioned, clearly, it's a success somehow of the hydrogen sector and the aviation sector. Clean Aviation, the partnership that will do the research innovation for aviation next 10 years, has now as a top priority to develop hydrogen aircraft. And we, in our partnership on hydrogen, have agreed with them that we will develop the right technological bricks, being the fuel cells for auxiliary power, the fuel cell for propulsion, which is completely new, the hydrogen tank and the infrastructure. And we have quite well coordinated roadmap between this partnership and us to be sure that we deliver on time. Third, we need to do big industrial projects. And actually we have identified airport as a place where you can have a hydrogen hub. You can have, of course, hydrogen that will be used in the form of sustainable fuel for aviation, but also for all the applications that are around the airport, the buses, and all these vehicles, trench vehicles that you have in the airport, which are around a single place, so you can easily have a refueling station and a fleet of vehicles and different devices using hydrogen, and I'm sure that Caetano will say something about this. That's what we can do for aviation. Now, what we can do for Portugal, I mean, I think now there is a realization in Portugal and in Brussels that Portugal has something unique. It's a huge potential of having cheap renewable and complement wind renewables and solar renewables. And this means that Portugal could be a big producer of hydrogen for its own use, but also an exporter of renewables in the form of hydrogen. I come from Belgium. In Belgium, we are such a crowded country that there is no space to put renewable, not to mention the rain. So we will at some moment, if we want to cover our needs, need to benefit from the renewables from other member states, and Portugal has the potential to help us in the form of hydrogen. But it should not be only for export, it should be for domestic use, of course. And in the IPCEI things, we see emerging clear interest and project where for the development of hydrogen in Portugal, and even already considering sharing it and importing it through other member states. And so basically, yes, sorry, and we see that this is also acknowledged not only by us, but by the Portuguese authority, because when we see the announcement of the different national government in their national and energy climate plan or their hydrogen strategy, if you see the member state that came the first with a strategy, the one that came with the highest budget, I think we were expecting to see Germany, Netherlands, and then the whole of Northern Europe. And actually, we saw that Portugal was actually overtaking, if I can say, many countries and coming with very high level of ambitions, which is show that you have a complete recognition of this potential in Portugal. And I can only say that from Brussels, we would like to facilitate that, because hydrogen is, of course, needs to be pushed nationally, but we need coordination at European level. And everything we can do as industry association, and I'm sure Bart, as manager of the program, we will do together to strengthen the Portuguese ecosystem and the linkage with the rest of our activities. And with this, I would like to give the floor to the next speaker.
Nicolas, thank you so much. And thank you for the kind words about Portugal. I could spend a long time saying kind words about Belgium, but we don't have time for that. Anyway, you are very much right saying that we need cooperation. That cooperation, let me just perhaps suggest that's not only between member states, but also between regions and clusters. And now we have one of the, Bart said that Airbus is setting the pace for innovation in aviation, and Caetano is setting the pace for innovation in the road transportation. So that's really a privilege to have you, Patrícia Vasconcelos, today with us. Caetano is one of the best examples how innovation may be done, and sometimes is better done, even when I would say the public support is not immediately there. You had to do it by yourself. You did indeed. You are leading in Europe. That's a very good example. We are all proud of that. So, Patrícia Vasconcelos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marcos. Thank you for the invitation and for having this opportunity to talk in this event. As you said, Caetano Bus is a bus manufacturer. We are the industry. We are the ones that will use and need the hydrogen in order to sell our products. Caetano Bus has a clear mission to provide safe and greener solutions through environmental solutions to our customers. We are a long time. We started already to support the decarbonization of our planet. So we started very early with electric buses, and meanwhile we have already developed and introduced into the market also fuel cell bus. So like Marcos said, we could not wait for having support, so we had to do it by our own and with our own initiative. And now you may think, what are we doing here and talking about aviation? What are we doing with aviation sector? Indeed, we are connected every day at the airports as ground supply equipment suppliers. So we provide buses that transport the people from the terminals to the planes. The brand that we have is a very well-known brand in the world, that is Cobus. It's a real apron bus. And that's where we are connected to the airports every day. We strongly believe that hydrogen will be the future in the airports. We have a lot of electric buses already running throughout the world, and we see how difficult it is for operators that have to operate 24/7 in order to charge a bus. The timing of charging an electric bus in an airport is really a big challenge for the operators. And this combined with strong air conditioning needs in hot countries and also strong heating needs in cold countries make the electric vehicle at airports sometimes not really the best solution. Meaning that the hydrogen solution is being on discussions with several airports. And we also see that, as you already mentioned, the aviation itself, the planes, will take some time. It's not that easy as it is with a bus. The bus solution is already there, and even other ground support equipments can have the solution of hydrogen. So what we see in the aviation is that we can make the first start. We, as ground support equipment suppliers, can have a first step in the airports and start with hydrogen. And then, of course, when the planes will come, then we will all contribute to a better planet. The big challenge at the moment, of course, is the missing infrastructure at the airports, like also in the cities. It's not only an airport issue. And of course, here the support of the cities and governments is much appreciated, because it's a big change and it's a huge infrastructure investment, and we can only sell our buses when this infrastructure is at place. So I think we are all aligned. We believe all in the hydrogen in the aviation sector. Of course, the planes will be the ones consuming the most, and also today they are the ones that most contribute to the CO2 emissions at the airports. We, with the bus, have a small part, but adding all the small parts together will, of course, contribute for the future. So I think this is my contribution to this panel. I hope that we can, together with you, really push and accelerate the infrastructure side, because after that, the producers and the industry is already prepared, like we are, and I think the industry is going to be very fast in having products with fuel cells. So again, I think what we need now is all the support in order to have hydrogen available so that we can use it. And thank you for the participation, and thank you for all your topics and discussion points. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Patrícia Vasconcelos. We are ending our session. We are not having a debate as such. It would be nice. We have to keep it for another occasion. Anyway, your statements are done. This was a wonderful panel. We had a little bit of a mosaic of the European hydrogen innovation ecosystem. That's wonderful, and indeed inspiring to meet again in other occasions to think to go further on the need of integrating the several components in order to be the most possible successful in Europe for hydrogen. We all need it. My last words are going to be to thank my colleague Kamila Olszewicz. Kamila did an amazing work. The conditions were very difficult. I have to say that we are not responsible for our summit. We were just asked to contribute to proposing a panel and moderating a panel on this session. And Kamila did an amazing job, I would say, as usual. It's the best event organizer I know. Okay, so thank you all for being present. Thank you, Camila, for all your professionalism, and hope to see you soon. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Obrigado.